Easy there. A boy only gets this flustered when he wants to kiss a girl or analyze a monster hunter. Fine, I'll do both for you. I'll be back for you later, Mary Todd. I have to do an episode first. Welcome to Monster Menagerie, brought to you by the Paladin Archives. My name is Mason Crystal. Mason is my title, Crystal is my name. It's nice to meet you all. If you're worried about Cren, don't fret. He's gone to a nice stewardship up north. No, really, he transferred from the Garden Stewardship to the Empire Stewardship. Honestly, it's like an hour drive away. Not a big deal. We'll still see him on Christmas and Easter. Anyway, this is Monster Menagerie, the show where we take a look at monsters in fiction and break down how they work and how the Paladin Order might respond to them. We've done vampires, demons, witches, and this year, we're taking something of a break and flipping the script. Instead of looking at the hunted, we're looking at those who hunt. And this month, we're gonna be honest. Honest Abe, that is. That's right, we're zooming back to a time when the very soul of this great nation was torn in twain, and the rights of minorities, their very lives, hung in the balance. I promise we're talking about the past, because we're zooming back to the American Civil War. The first one. I'm not sure when you're watching this, we might have to specify. As we take a look at the greatest American vampire hunter, Abraham Lincoln. My God, this film. After Red, Wolf Hunter, you have no idea what a breath of fresh air this is. It's over the top, yes, but in such a popcorn flick kind of way. Based on the novel of the same name, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was born in a time when revisiting classics to give them a modern, goofy spin was pretty chic. Author Seth Graham Smith was already killing it with Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which I might have to take a look at eventually. So, when we saw arguably the greatest American president gear up with an axe and a vendetta, it was the perfect storm for a period piece vampire movie. So, let's grab our silver axes and stovepipe hats, because it's time to look at, I can't believe I'm saying this, Abraham Lincoln.
Whatever history remembers of me, if it remembers anything at all, it shall only be a fraction of the truth.
Yes, it's the Abraham Lincoln, so roughly 40 to 50% of this movie is just history. But the art form lies in finding places to insert vampires. Kind of like love. We begin with a young Abraham defending his friend Will against the attacks of slavers. His father stops one Jack Bartz from whipping Abe, thus earning his ire. This sets the stage for the slighted man, both a slaver and vampire, to plot his vengeance against Abe's family. Abraham loses his mother to the vampire's sickness, a strange disease vampires are able to pass on with a touch or a bite. There is no cure, and soon Abraham loses his mother, with his father following a few years after. Now a young man desperate to gain vengeance against the man who stole his life, Abraham grabs a gun and one too many pints as he tries to work up the courage to do what he thinks must be done. Fortunately, he meets Henry Sturgis, who follows him to his showdown with Bartz. When a gunshot straight to the eye doesn't down Bartz, we learn that Abe isn't dealing with a normal man. He's stepped into the world of shadows and devils, a world of vampires. Down, but not out, Abraham dedicates himself to Henry's teachings, those of the vampire hunter. And despite being known as our most honest president, not that the bar is that high, he lies to Henry when he promises he won't focus on vengeance. From there, the training begins and the names are sent out. Lincoln gets a day job as a clerk at Joshua Speed's shop while removing vampires from the nation's census at night. One by one, name by name, he does as he's told, though all he really wants is to get his hands on Bartz. But his orders are clear. No vengeance, no family, no romance. But, no one told that to Mary Todd. Yes, while our 16th president-to-be was sharpening his axe on vampire skulls, he was also failing miserably at resisting the charms of Mary Todd. With her, his rekindled friendship with Will, and a bag full of law books, Lincoln began focusing less on wooden stakes and more on the stakes, the direction of our country, the very soul of our nation. But there's a reason superheroes wear masks. Bartz learns about Abe's vampire hunting and sets his sights on Mary, forcing the confrontation Abe has been looking for years. One stampede and a badass axe gun later, and it's all over. He returns to Henry at the worst possible time, coming off the high of vengeance to find the low of betrayal. Henry is a vampire. This is when we learn that Bartz was only a symptom. The true problem is the vampire Adam. Not just a normal vampire, the father of dozens and dozens of vampires that have spread throughout the country, infiltrating every school, parish, and town hall in the nation. And more than this, he's responsible for Henry's dark condition. Lincoln wants to just forget everything. After all, he's gotten the revenge he wanted. But he's on Adam's radar now, and an invitation, with huge air quotes here, down to the south brings Abe downriver with speed and will, right into the lion's den itself. After an incredibly badass fight, Lincoln and company decline Adam's invitation to join them and end up running for their lives. And the best way back to the north is the railroad, the Underground Railroad. Yes, Harriet Tubman sheltered Abraham Lincoln from vampires, which, by the way, inspired him to put down the axe and pick up the pen. From here, things calm down a bit. Lincoln does what Lincoln did. Lawyer, politician, president, and he keeps his word to fight for the freedom of black Americans. But that's when he learns that apparently a slave state is what the vampire economy runs on, and they're a little pissed. Cut to the Civil War, and suddenly we have Union battalions getting destroyed when their bullets aren't killing the Confederates. Why? Take a guess. Lincoln is largely removed from the immediate consequences of the war, but the vampires don't let that stand. Adam's right-hand woman infiltrates the White House and gives Abraham a flashback to his childhood. His son is stricken with the same disease that took his mother. Lincoln, beset by enemies on all sides, a saboteur in his ranks, and a wife that blames him for their son's death because he refused to trust her, concocts a desperate plan to save the nation. Silver. All of it. Collected from the White House and all of D.C., it's melted down and shipped to the front lines via the railroad. Once again, not that railroad. That one's just a diversion filled with some badass fights. No, it's Mary Todd and Harriet Tubman that get the silver to the front lines, where it secures a Union victory against vampires and slavers alike. And everyone lived happily ever after. Lincoln even got to go see a play afterward. Honest Abe, lawyer, politician, president, vampire hunter. This man's feats are insane. Without any supernatural assistance, Lincoln's physicality, endurance, strength, and agility are on par with any of the hunters we've seen so far, and a few we're saving for later. Now that's saying something, because Van Helsing, he's an amnesiac angel. Huntrix, pop idols empowered by the Han Moon. And the Ghostbusters, clearly supernaturally charmed against sexual harassment lawsuits. Lincoln stands toe-to-toe with them all as just a man. So, let's take a look at his tools, his talents, and his targets. First and foremost, that silver axe. In its base form, it's just an axe coated with silver and wielded by an insanely talented hunter. Designed for splitting logs, this simple weapon was turned to splitting wigs, and statistically speaking for the time, probably at least one wig. Upgraded, we see he'd slid a rifle barrel into the handle capable of firing one silver ball. A good backup, but I do worry about it going off while doing all that fancy spinning and shooting yourself. Though I suppose it wouldn't be any worse than the bayonet he strapped to the bottom during the train fight. Pro tip, no pointy parts of a weapon should ever face the user. Ever. But his talents don't stop there, because like an antebellum Jackie Chan, Lincoln was a master of improvised weaponry and situational awareness.
Which cannot be taught, by the way.
One of his best is definitely the use of the blacksmith's forge, turning the tables on him mid-fight. But my personal favorite? Shasha!
Pocket sand! Yeah.
For reals, it's such a simple thing, I absolutely love it. Next up, let's take a look at his abilities. We have to start with that iconic scene of him just hammering through a tree. So, first off, this is very back of the napkin. Normally we'd identify the trees chopping down and then figure out what the rupture strength is, but the problem is the movie is set in Springfield, Illinois, but filmed in Louisiana. So I can't be sure that the trees are right, and it's a whole thing. So we're going to have to make a few generous assumptions, but I promise we'll be in the ballpark. We're looking at what I think is a pine of some variety. Arborists in chat, please feel free to correct me. If we go with a loblolly pine, the lower end of its rupture strength is about 70 megapascals, meaning Lincoln has to impart that much stress to snap the wood. When we crunch the numbers, we find that Lincoln has to impart approximately 14,000 newtons of force. To give you a frame of reference for that, that's roughly the force of gravity you'd feel with a Toyota Camry resting on your chest, about 1.45 tons. Insane. But strength isn't his only attribute. This badass president can take a beating. Just look at this scene where he's chasing down Bartz in the middle of a stampede. Bartz hammer throws a frickin' horse at him. Again, we're doing some generous estimations, but if we assume those horses are around 500 kilograms and hit at a leisurely 35 miles per hour, about 15 meters per second, Abe's tanking around 157,000 newtons on the high end. Now, he does roll with it, but how much can you roll with a horse hitting you? And yes, my fellow Americans, I'd be glad to contextualize. 157,000 newtons. That's like if someone threw a freaking horse at you. Lastly, we gotta look at the climax where Abe takes down Adam. Graphic warning, you're about to watch Abe Lincoln punch through a vampire's chest. Okay, so there's two interpretations. Either the silver lets Abe punch through the vampire's chest, or he punches through and the silver is what kills the vampire. I prefer number two because that's just way cooler. This one is messy, but still pretty cool. First off, let's ignore the skin and muscle for just a moment and focus on those ribs. It takes about 3,300 newtons to break a rib, give or take. If we assume he needs to break at least 3 ribs to get past him, that's almost 10,000 newtons right off the bat. Now, knives puncture flesh easily because they focus all that pressure at a small point, but Abe's fist is not a knife point. Adding in the force needed to push 9 square inches of fist through the skin and muscle and not even worrying about crushing the heart, we're easily in the 12 to 15,000 newton range. Basically what he was using to chop down that tree in one go. If we're conservative, that means he's basically matching the axe chop with a single fist. Holy crap. Lastly, let's take a look at his prey. Now, every movie treats their monsters uniquely. There's a whole trope for this called "Our monsters are different." Vampires for Abe have one major weakness: silver. According to Henry, when Judas was paid in silver for betraying Jesus, silver became a curse against monsters. Somehow. So, silver in the heart or head kills a bloodsucker, which I prefer that saved for my wolves, but vampires are one of the oldest monsters in fiction, so it's not unexpected. They do have a few other interesting tidbits, of course. For one, they have that weird plague-like vampire bite. And, of course, they're able to handle the sun with just a little bit of sunscreen. Presumably SPF 10,000. Oh, and we can't forget, vampires can't kill vampires. Sorry, Henry, that had to suck. Get it? Suck? Vampire? Yeah. Yeah, I'm way funnier than Cren. Within the Paladin Order, Masons like me act as something of a liaison, guides to knowledge and understanding that ferry weary paladins through the river of lore to the shores of understanding. That is to say, I sit behind a desk and answer phone calls from paladins asking, "Hey, Mason, whatever your name is, how do I kill this thing?" For the last 3 years, we used that very skill to give demons, vampires, and witches threat rankings like we would do in our everyday job. But this year, we're looking at hunters. And since the Order doesn't have an official scale specifically meant for them, we've created our own, the Index Incommoditatis. We look at how well trained a hunter is, how well equipped, and what their collateral damage looks like. For hunters like Red, abysmal scores. For Huntrix, top tier. So, what's in the cards for Abraham Lincoln? Oh, it just still tickles me that we're talking about Abe Lincoln. Well, first off, he's trained exceedingly well. He follows orders without complaint, but still thinks for himself. He adapts to his situation and utilizes whatever weaponry the environment affords him. He stays calm under pressure and always has a backup plan. Look at how easily Red and her family were captured by wolves last month. Now look at Abe cutting himself free from bonds with a knife in his teeth. The man even trained in the dark to fight invisible enemies. Top marks. What about talent and equipment? Well, he tends to go into battle pretty light, but with a natural strength that rivals superheroes, a simple axe becomes mightier than Thor's hammer. Try to keep in mind one thing. Lincoln is just a man. Not a god, not a chosen one, not bestowed with magical powers, just a man. And he manages to hit with a force of 14,000 newtons and tanks a horse to the chest. With just an axe and a plan, he lays waste to vampire after vampire in a network of bloodsuckers that stretches across the American South. He works well with a team, he works well on his own. He'd be a perfect paladin agent, and best of all, collateral damage was almost nil. No innocence if you don't count his mother and son, and beside Adam's mansion getting a drive-through, which was Speed's doing, and that bridge getting lit on fire, which was Adam's doing, Lincoln is precise. He wields that axe like a frickin' scalpel. Our Index Incommoditatis ranking for Abraham Lincoln, 420 years ago, out of 5. Abraham Lincoln. Oh my gosh, I love this job. I just evaluated the hunting prowess of the 16th American president. I don't know how we top that. I think that's a good debut for me. Speaking of, we're not done with hunters yet. While we'll be taking next month off to recover and do a little studying, we've got at least 2 more big hunters before our end of the year special. We're bringing all of our hunters together and judging them with a panel of VTuber experts. You won't want to miss it. And if you're missing Cren already, don't worry. Someone has to help me host it. So, thanks again for watching. Thanks again for watching. If you liked what you saw, we'd love a like and subscribe. Don't forget, you can catch me over on Twitch and check out our shorts here on YouTube and over on TikTok. But it's time to head out. I've got Mary Todd waiting on me, so yeah, as my big brother says, keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's hiding out there. Thanks, Cren.
Hey little sis, are you feeling alone? It's been a while now since you left home. I'm guessing that you're doing alright. You were always so smart, always so bright. And no, you never really needed me. All you had to do was believe in yourself and take a chance. I'm so proud to say it now. I can't be your shining armor anymore. You don't need my protection, but we'll always have a connection. lost touch so long ago. And where are you now? I barely know. It hurts to say we're gonna separate ways, and I'm praying now I'll see you someday soon. And even through the fog of time, I'll remember the days just fine when I was your favorite hero. That was so long ago, yeah. I can't be your shining armor anymore. You don't need my protection, but we'll always have a connection. No, I can't be your shining armor anymore. You don't need my defenses. You're growing up and moving on. I'll always love you from afar, but you're growing up and moving on without me. Hey little sis, are you feeling alone? Little sis, are you feeling alone?